So, welcome. This is my presentation. It's called Docker for PHP developers. There will be no live coding session today, as you will see from slides. And this is not my notebook, so it really cannot happen today. Okay, let's start. Who am I? I'm a programmer, as many of you. Mostly I do PHP, also some JavaScript stuff as React and tools related to that framework. I'm a developer at Kebula. Maybe I can ask how many of you know Kebula. Okay, one person, never mind. So I'm working in some unknown firm, unknown company. What we are doing, we are building ETL platform. It's called Kebula Connection, and we are writing about it and at 500.kebula.com. Technologies we are using, it's you can insert some cool words, big data, I don't know, Kafka, whatever. So jokes aside, we are using primarily AWS and stuff related to that platform. So if you want, you can follow me on Twitter and Medium and etc. So I would like to tell you how I started with the Docker. It wasn't really like that. Once in the morning I woke up and hey, let's do some Docker. No, it wasn't that way. I was in a mood when we are working on too many projects, and I was really angry that I have to maintain many versions of PHP, MySQL, Postgres, I don't know, whatever. And it was really pain in the ass to maintain all those services. So I was in a mood, as you can see, to get rid of host installations. I wanted to keep my system clean. So one day I was playing with the Vagrant, and the default setup was really slow for me because it was a virtual box with some kind of setup when a host system is shared through very slow volume. And I don't know, I don't want to go too much in details. Here's the proof. I started with Docker, yeah, and that's it. So then I started to really love Docker, and I really want everyone to use it, because that system is for me like wow, where I was all those years, because it's really like helping developers to developer experience with Docker is really good, and you will see later. Then I can send it. There's nothing much easier than Docker to make your system or boot time, or I don't know. For example, when you have a new team member in your team, and then boot time really speeds up because he just cloned the repository. Built images, nothing like I cannot install PHP 5.6 with your MySQL PDO extension. I need another day of work. Nothing like that will happen. Nothing like that won't happen with Docker. So, how was it in the past? As you can see, I already made some notes about the past. So it was like, as Czech can say, pas vedle pasti. And it was like you have a new computer, and you install Apache, Nginx, MySQL, Postgres, whatever. All services you need to install. You have to install. Start services, start coding. After a few weeks, your project manager will come after you, and hey, we have a really cool new project. You have to maintain this PHP 5.3. Okay, and what's next? There's MySQL 4.0. Okay, great. So it was really like the past we want to forget. it was like past really pasty. So the future is that you have a new computer, prepare a Docker file, and run them, start coding. After a few weeks, your project manager will come to you and you will say, okay, I rebuilt my images, no problem. So that way, the Docker way is really the better way. Your computer is only resource for you. So I would like to share, this was only an introduction, a few tips and tricks which I found through that way of not switching from like local host installation to Docker, but through that way, for example, when we made our applications to run in production in Docker, etc. So first, very good tool or program which will help you with your development setup is Docker Compose. As you can see, there are only a few commands, but first I want to ask how many of you use Docker Compose? Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, okay, raise your hands. Okay. So maybe a third. So we will see. So how you really what Docker Compose is? It's a service or it's an engine or it's a command which will help you to run multiple containers at once. If I run Docker Compose up my application, it can start my application and related services. Yes, and how many of those services we have? We can have 10 services. For example, in some application I maintain or I'm contributing to maintain, we have 10 services. So MySQL, Apache, Supervisor, I don't know, Elasticsearch, different version of Elasticsearch, etc., etc. And also, it's very good for testing. You can do something like this: just Docker Compose run my application PHP unit, and it will run your test. Good thing is that container exit code is propagated as an exit code as a normal program. So if this fail, also the command which was executing this will fail. Also, another way of running Docker Compose can be like a daemon. So you can start your services, run your tests, and then Docker Compose down. Okay, here's a small example where I have some application and it's set up. I'm mounting the code, and this is really not interesting. I don't know why I put this slide here. Okay. Second can be more interesting. I wanted to test if some program sends something to UDP. So I started some kind of UDP listener, then run my tests. These tests should send something to UDP port, and then Docker Compose logs should output those logs, and I grab if there was some text. So for testing environment is Docker Compose also very useful. Okay, another thing which I wanted to mention was good thing is to build your images that way, so you can run bash or some kind of command or another service instantly. When I say instantly, I mean just append that command you want to run to command you are already using for starting your services. It's very easy. You can you can push, once again, you can pull the Debian and run bash. So why shouldn't we use all our services like this? So we can use Composer, database migration, etc., etc., or just run our service, hit bash command and play. In this command, for example, I can use Apache 2 foreground, and it will start Apache or whatever command I need. Another good thing is to use CLI commands which normally use which normally use as commands to help you maintain, I don't know, your repository system, etc. For example, really I can I can say I'm really like break. Command I use on daily basis in Travis, and what I wanted to do is to run Travis in Docker. To run Travis in Docker, I have to prepare images and I have to install Ruby. I don't want to install shit on my system, so that's why we are on a PHP conference. And so I installed, I prepared Docker file, installed Ruby and the Docker file. I mounted volumes and I used my computer only as a resource. This is the command I used, gem install Travis. These are some build arguments. I added the ID of user, or I added the same user with the same ID and the same name to that container. So I will not run into exceptions where my UID is not the same as a UID in a container. And I build this. And then I have this shortcut script. This shortcut script will help me to mount all my work case to that container. Also, mount my current working directory, set the working directory where I am, set the user under which I want to run that container, and then I would like to pass all arguments I passed to that command, which is actually this, to be forwarded to that container. So when I hit Travis on my computer, it will execute the image, start the container with that image, and execute command Travis with forwarded arguments. What it means? It means that I don't have to have Travis installed locally. I just hit that command Travis, start the container, do the work, and exit with some kind of code. Why is there this? Why is there this? Travis store. For example, when you hit Travis login, it won't. It will ask for a username, password, etc. These values are stored here. If I mounted this directory, after successful run of that container, I will find. I can find the credentials which I used to log in, or some kind of token in that directory. So interesting, or another interesting thing is everything is a file. Almost everything in Linux. You can mount a socket, you can mount file, directory, whatever you want. Good example is, maybe some of you already saw this slide on NetAccamp. I wanted to have a syslog in my container, but the problem is, hey, there's no syslog running in my container, so what will I do? I will mount the container or volume with syslog to my container, and then I can use syslog. Here's the helper service syslog watcher, which only do the tail, mounts volumes, these volumes, because it's volumes from syslog, and this is a syslog socket. Actually, this is the most important part in this slide, because this is a syslog socket which will be used for logging. Then, in another service, my app, I will use Debian and mount that syslog socket to devlog. Devlog is a default location for syslog. And then when I hit logger something, hello PHP, it will be printed by this service syslog watcher, because this log is from syslog, to output of that command. So next thing, we are getting more and more deeper. Very common or very useful thing is to run Docker in Docker. Normally, if someone tell you install Docker in your Docker, you will be like, oh, Docker in my Docker, what does that mean? It's very easy. Actually, you will not install Docker in your Docker because you don't want to go deeper and you don't want to corrupt your file system, or I don't know, whatever. The cool thing here is you only mount a socket, Docker socket, to that container, and through that container, your through that volume, your container will have access to your host system. So if I run Docker run my application, that application will have a socket mounted. Then I can call new Symfony command, and in that command will be Docker run something, as you can see here. Just to mention, this is the name of the image. So if I don't mount the socket there, it's, hey, what are you trying to do? Did you forget to install Docker in your Docker? No, I just forget to mount my socket. And if I mount socket, it will print the ID of a container. This is interesting because it's ID of a container, which is this command. So it's something like it will print ID of itself. Okay, I think we have 5 minutes. So lessons which I learned. This is more like oriented to things which the previous slides was general tips and tricks which you can use even if you are not PHP developer, and this will be more about PHP, I think. It's very easy to start with Apache, and it's easier than Nginx because one service is less than two services. So if you don't care, just use Apache. You don't have to bother with PHP, FPM, and Apache just listen on 80 port, and you set the virtual host, and that's it. While in Nginx you will need PHP FPM, Nginx will be connecting to that FPM, and it can get more complicated. So I only wanted to say, if you don't care, just use Apache. Second thing is, do not run databases in a container. Why? Because databases, as I said many times before in one of my presentations, they are critical or crucial to our businesses. So you probably won't get it right. That's true. Me neither. Because if it's running in a container, you will need to run all related operations in container too. So how you would solve backups? How would you solve replication? Will be there one container for one database slave, or how you will solve scaling or something like that. So many people get stuck here because they think they have to put everything in a container. No, it's not true. The best thing is to outsource as much as you can. You should focus on your system, on your product, and not to care about where should I run my database. If you need your workers, it's okay to have them in a container, but database I would not recommend to run in a container. Just buy database as a service. They will solve many things for you, and you can just put out of your head that thing. Oh, did I set up backup? Or did I try to restore my backup? These are two separate things. If you have backups, it's okay, but did you try to restore? Another thing is which sometimes people are messing with is they use different images for development and production environments, and that's not good, because if I build my code with using one image and run that in my development environment, why should I build another? The point is that if I build another, that code is not tested. So there should be only one image, because, wait a second for a question, yeah? There will be your time. There should be only one image, because I build my image, it will run on localhost with mounted volume, which will contain a code, which I want to run. For example, from PHP store, when I change something, it will be replicated to that container. Why should I build another image? There's no point. I change environment variables, and code will be directly copied to that image. So you will also run composer install in that image, and then when you build your image and hit the docker compose run my application bash, then you hit composer install, it will show you that everything was loaded from cache, because you already did composer install in your container, and it is very good. As I said, code should be copied to the image, and you will overwrite that code on localhost with your directory, something like volumes dot slash to slash code. And also test should run in a container. The typical, if we are talking about CI or something like the typical workflow can be build image, run tests in that image. Optionally, you can install another layer with Xdebug or something like that if you want to report code coverage. And then, if everything is successful, push that exact image on which I run the test to a Docker repository, and then image will be deployed to production. No, you will not, because that composer install will flag pref dist. So, wait for questions. One Docker image to rule them all. What does it mean? If you need more services to run, it is very good to pack those services in one image. It doesn't matter if I want to run cron, it doesn't matter if I want to run database migrations. Why should I distribute three different images with my code? The code is the same. This is this is like the second part of the slide where I mentioned prepare your images to run bash or something instantly, because you can do that. You will have one image from PHP 7 Apache. You will install apt-get install cron, and you also can execute PHP, because PHP is already in that PHP 7 image. So the commands or on CI environment or on testing environment can look like docker compose run my application and then PHP some script.php. This will be executed, and if I wanted to run composer install, I just append that to that command. If I want to run cron, the same thing. I just append cron -f to that command. So I have one image, all services are built into that image, and I will run three different services. When my application is deployed to production server, I will run docker compose run my application, blah, 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 run migrations. This command will run, and then without passing a command, the Apache will start, and I will have another container which will have overrided command to cron -f, and this will start the cron, for example. So one Docker image to rule them all. It's very easier, and you only pull that image once, and you don't have to worry about that code is in one image, second image, and you don't have to worry about that you will copy code a different way. And also the tests will run on this image, which is very common to PHP community. Maybe it's a common in the Czech and Slovak Republic too. We are like, I have to build this myself. Oh, it existed. I didn't know. Never mind. I will build it myself. So don't try to build your images like you never know there was official PHP 7 image. These images are official, are supported. If you report a bug on GitHub or something, there's probability that someone will respond you with a fix or with something like, okay, we just forgot to install PHP -dev - I don't know to this. We'll fix it. So do not reinvent the wheel. The images are prepared. Sometimes there are cases. I'm not saying that you should not do it at all, like never. Sometimes there are cases when you are building some kind of proprietary lib, like PHP with ODBC from Oracle, I don't know, special path, something, dot, I don't know. But the message here is the official images are based on Debian, and they are very stable. Alpine is smaller. Some guys are known to optimize everything even before the application was deployed. I will choose Alpine. It's smaller. We will save like 600 megabytes on network traffic. Oh, that's awesome. You should put it on your badge on Twitter. So Alpine is smaller, but it can cause sometimes a problem. So I would recommend to choose default, and if the network is your problem, then try to find some solution and choose Alpine. For example, we had one problem with memory with Alpine. When normal build was okay from Debian, which is official, Alpine is official too. Actually, they hired the author of Alpine to rewrite their images to Alpine, but we had a memory problem with Alpine. I only switched that from PHP 7 minus Alpine to from PHP 7, and the memory problem was away. Many times people ask me, hey, but I want to log to that container because I normally do it to my server. Why? I want to copy Ladenka. Oh yeah, but the case is not you want to copy Ladenka. It's about you want to extract data from a container and put it somewhere when you can do further analysis or something like that. So if you have like, if you are, for example, like Netflix or I don't know, some bigger company which have workers and I don't know, thousands of workers, there's no case that you will log to your container, because once you figure out how to log to that container, then container can be shut down because it was only on worker or something like that. So if you want to logs, you can send them to standard output, or if you need files from a container, just send them. Network is, for example, in AWS environment, very, very like cost effective. Just send it through the network from that container somewhere else, and then do further analysis. Be logging in a container, it's a nonsense, because, for example, if you have load balancer which will forward traffic to 50 containers, to which one you will log and debug the problem. There's nothing like that. So if you have in mind a scale, you will not need to log to that container. You can use also, we are using it in the production, Logspout, which is a daemon, which have a Docker socket mounted through a volume, and it will send logs to an UDP port to papertrail somewhere. So it will collect logs from all Docker images from their outputs and send them to papertrail, and then you can do search in a papertrail, or you can send them somewhere else. It doesn't matter, but I mentioned papertrail because we are using it in production and it's really working. We have, I don't know how, we have 50 containers and all are sending logs to papertrail. Even Apache is sending its logs to standard output, and those logs will end up in paper trail. We are using this, so we set up all our images to send logs to standard output, because it's then very easy to log spout to forward those logs to some third-party service. You can use Logstash or something like that. So, but there are situations how to enter the container. just execute docker exec command with the container name, but it's a very dangerous. I only needed it, I mean, maybe once. It's very dangerous because there's actually a process of Apache or some other command which is running, and if you hit wrong commands, for example, something which will consume memory, that container will be killed, and you can actually cause a 500 error to your user. So I do not really recommend. If you need to run it, just configure the task or the container to run some command which will not cause harm. For example, tail something in your environment. That command will run forever because tail is supposed to do it. And then docker exec, similar way to do this container, and then you can play. You are in the same environment and you can try to ping some server from that container, or you can try to connect to MySQL from that container, and so on. And who wants some live coding? No, there will be no live coding. And I think that's it. So do you have any questions?